Welcome to Filter Optional. I am Chico West.
And I am Shannon West. We are two people doing the work out loud, hoping to encourage others along the way.
Join us as we unpack life with no filter
And a filter.
Hello, Shannon.
Hello, Chico.
Oh, you're on your phone.
I'm not on my phone. I have my phone in front of me, but I am not on it.
Oh, can you do two things at once?
I can do two things. I can do probably 3 or 4 things at once. I'm a great juggler.
Okay, can I give an example how that is not true?
I mean, if you must.
When I come home and you're texting and I start talking to you and you put your finger up and tell me, wait. So you really can't do two things at once.
Well, no, that's just a boundary because I need you to pause for a minute. You don't always get access to me exactly when you want access to me.
That could be a privacy thing, too.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
just like
thank you, Kevin, for
Out of nowhere, I just-
sharing.
that has nothing to do with multitasking. It's like you don't get to just come in and start asking me things. And it's like, you know, we're officially empty nesters.
Oh, shit.
Well, no, we've moved the baby in Austin. How about the sneeze? Oh my gosh.
We moved him
Excuse
into his
me.
dorm. We didn't check him in.
Right. He keeps saying we checked back in. I'm like, people could be like, checked him in. Like, where'd he go? We moved
The psych
him.
ward or something? That's
Yeah,
what it
right.
sounds like.
It does. That is what it sounds like. It's like, yeah, we've checked him in. But we moved him in. And so now I'm having to draw some boundaries with you, Chico.
I don't think you have to draw some boundaries. I think you're choosing to draw boundaries.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yes, I am choosing to draw some boundaries.
I mean, I
because-
would encourage you not to draw any boundaries.
I know it affects you. Yes,
I like it when there is the boundaryless Shannon.
yes, I know, and it's no more because I don't. You used to be able to skirt in around the kids when I was doing stuff for the kids. You kind of flew under the radar, and now that I'm really not doing much for the kids, I mean, especially on a daily basis, cooking, cleaning, taking care of stuff, and I'm
Picking 'em
not doing that.
up,
You can't slide. Your needs can't slide under the radar. You just have to.
I have to
ask.
pause.
And I also have to figure out how to not overdo for you because I think you ask me to do things a lot that you just don't want to do.
Okay, this is the intro. We're not doing a segment on what I do and don't do. Okay,
Maybe we should.
No, I have a different idea for our.
Okay, I was just introing, it's just-
Introing. Now all of a sudden it became about Chico.
Okay,
And-
we'll table that topic and we'll
What
come back to it.
we can come back to it, but
Well-
I need a little heads up so I can
Hey,
present.
I was just talking like I normally do.
I could present my
I didn't-
defense.
If you're listening, then that's great. If you're watching, then you'll see that my glam squad was off today.
Okay, so if you are watching, I want people to see.
What?
Can you see the back of my head?
What about it?
It does not look bald at all.
It does actually. You can't see the. Oh my gosh, I can see it. Yes, you still got a little bald. Why?
It's
are you
weird. It
pointing-
didn't look like that before the show.
It
and you're-
didn't. And then Shannon, I think Shannon makes me bald. It didn't. I did the same
No,
thing.
I was
and-
looking. Yeah, I
Now
was
you
watching
really
you do
messed
it
up
earlier.
your hair. Like
Yeah.
we both look a little disheveled. But anyway.
But
So-
we're back in the studio.
Yes.
And we're back to getting our filter optional up and running.
Yes, it's the fall. Everybody's, summer's out. Summer's over. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, but it still feels
So-
hot, even though today is a nice day in Dallas, Texas. A cold
But
front.
everybody's getting back. Football starts. Oh
Yes.
my gosh. Even though we don't have anybody on the field this year, I love football. I love football season.
Well, what I was thinking today for our topic,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to title it. And so, Kevin, when you put the title in, oh, here it
note.
is.
You got it.
Community is weird.
Community is weird. Okay.
Yeah. That is the title of this episode.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean by community is weird?
No, I have a feeling you're going to tell us, though.
Yeah. Community is weird because, I mean, we have all sorts of different communities.
Right. You have a church community. You have a kid
/ school community.
school, community. You'll even have a team community. Like
You have
our
a
kids
work-
have always been on teams.
You have a
know,
work community.
sports teams and stuff like that. You have a work community,
You maybe have a social community.
right? You maybe have a high school community. You know, that people that you went to high school with. You have a college community if you went to college with people. You know, you're always. I mean, I'm always saying, I'm going on a reunion, the 30-year college reunion in October. When was it?
September.
September, and that's a community within itself. That you know,
Yes.
my people here in Dallas don't know those people. And they're a huge part of my life, and they're still consistently in my life, and I can turn to. I got 2 texts this week from friends of mine that's kids now live in Dallas, and they're asking for doctor recommendations and all that stuff, and I love it that I have that community.
Yes.
So yeah,
And that you can be a resource.
yes,
Yes.
But
And
those are
you've
different
you've
types
done
of
some of those same things with your college community, your sorority girlfriends.
yes.
You know, it is sorority and fraternity
People are going
season.
through quote unquote recruitment now. They don't call it rush anymore. They call it recruitment.
Yes, it's crazy. But we have all sorts of different communities. You know, there's healthy communities. You know, all the communities you just listed. You know, there's kind of surface communities. There's also, man, there can be some toxic communities. All of a sudden, you're in a community and there might be someone that's toxic. You know, and stuff like that.
Wait, are you saying that a toxic community can be just one person, or can it be actually? I think that communities can be toxic not because of just one person, but okay. So I've always said this about our kids, some friend groups. I would say, they would be like, "Ooh, do you like so and so Susie Q?" And I would be like, yeah, individually, I think Susie Q is awesome. Like, she's such a good person. She's going to, nail life, and she's going to be great. But in her friend group, they're toxic. Like,
They feed off each other.
yeah, there's a toxic dynamic. And so I feel like community, when you talk about toxic communities, it can be the culture of the community and the dynamic of the group, and not the individuals.
I think you can have both.
Yeah.
You know, I think one person can be toxic that can bring down the community. You have family communities. We didn't even mention that.
Well, right.
You know, I mean, I have, I'm the oldest of 4 boys, and now we really, I think my 2 other brothers and my mom and the sister-in-laws, we don't communicate to one of my brothers, because he's toxic.
Right.
But when he was around, it made the community even more toxic.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so,
that's a dynamic. Yeah.
yes.
But that can create even the one person, but you don't necessarily. It's hard to. How do you get out of those toxic? Once a person creates a dynamic and a culture, and you kind of in your community group, you kind of go down that path. How do you pull out of it?
Well, first you have to, I think, hey, we're talking about communities being weird because in the definition of it being weird is there's so many different communities. So if you just say, hey, I'm in community, what does that mean? That's where I'm saying it's weird.
Right.
It could be, is it your work community? Is it your church community? Is it your neighborhood community? What some might say is the community of history, meaning your high school or college friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
the community of proximity or proxy. You know,
Like neighbors or
like
school.
neighbors and school. You know, the community of context. You know, so there's all sorts of different communities. When I say it's weird, is like lots of times we want to, you know, what is we've talked about a lot of different ones, but then you have what is authentic community, you know, and I kind of want to end with that as we start talking. But you asked a good question about toxic, you know, and what was your question again for clarity?
Well, I was just saying that, you know, so sometimes you can't help it. Like you can't pick your family.
No.
Okay. You can't really pick the parents that go to, you know, school, your school community. You can't really pick your neighbors. I mean, to an extent, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so if there is a toxic element to the community, whether it's the culture of the whole community or it's one person, how do you pull out of that? How do you separate out of that? Or
Well, if we're talking about
how do you
toxic,
keep it from being toxic to you?
okay, and I like that. That's what the question. You know,
Yeah.
how do you keep it from being toxic? First, I like to look at it as, I mean, I think there's 7 types of toxic people. Okay,
Okay.
you know, one being, you know, the conversational narcissist. You know, that it all of a sudden when you're in community with them or others, it's always being drawn back to them.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that make sense? You know, I like that one.
Would that be considered also like a one-upper? Like when you're trying to be vulnerable and saying, you know, I'm really struggling with my, you know, kid or whatever, and they're like, oh, you think you're struggling? Like I'm struggling, or with the one-upper, or
Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's go through the 7 and see if you
Okay.
think it's the one upper.
Okay.
We'll come back to it. Okay. Then there's the straitjacket the straitjacket toxic person.
Okay.
And the straitjacket toxic person is the one that always needs to be in control. You know, if you're going over to their house for dinner, it's like they're telling you what to do and where to bring. Or if they're coming to your house, okay, they start to do all this, or they go to Costco and buy a bunch of shit. You
Okay.
know, does that make sense? You know, can you think of people like that? Yeah. Then there's the emotional moocher. You know. And that's that person that kind of sucks the positive out of you.
Like Debbie Downer,
Yeah.
like the Saturday Night
Yeah.
Live skit.
Yes. I mean, so the cool thing is you see that,
Yeah.
you know, and then there's the drama magnet,
Okay.
you know, and that drama magnet is that person that is always seeking crisis, that they, you know, are doing that, you know, all the time. I kind of like that. The drama magnets are victims and thrive in crisis because it makes them feel important.
Or needed or something.
Yeah,
or
and so I think
chaos and crisis.
so. Your question going back to the one upper. I think sometimes that's that drama,
I don't know, maybe.
maybe.
Yeah.
And then I like this one, the J&J.
The Johnson and Johnson.
I like that. No, the jealous, judgmental person.
Jealous, judgmental. Okay.
You know, the jealous, judgmental is like they come across that jealous, judgmental is they come across judgmental, but it's really underneath it is jealous about your life. I'm thinking of someone in our life that's like that. You know, that it's like
I can think of many that are like that. Like, oh, you're gonna let, you know, your kid do that, you know, when really it's like, what's your problem with that? Why are you judgmental about that? I mean, whatever.
Yeah, and you know their jealousy comes out like a lot of times as judgmental criticism or gossip. You know, everyone else is awful, uncool, or lacking in some way.
Yeah.
You know, that's the cool thing. And then there's the fibber, or you might just call it the liar, but you could call it the fibber. They're just always they just don't tell the truth.
Does like an exaggerator fall into that category, or like a white liar, or is this somebody that's like,
Yes, it's an exaggerator big time.
yeah,
You know, and it becomes exhausting.
yeah,
You know, whether they tell little falsehoods or major lies.
Yeah.
You know, and so it that's where trust, comes
Yeah.
in. It's hard to trust that. And then there's the tank. And the tank it just crushes everybody.
Frank the Tank.
Frank the tank just crushes everybody, and so it's
And
like
meaning what? What crushes them how?
just over dominating conversations, consuming, all that stuff in their life, making it sometimes even making it all about them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, they just crush everything.
Yeah, they're just overbearing personalities. Just
Lots of times they think they're the smartest person in the room.
yeah, yeah.
So every conversation in person is a challenge to them. They want to one up it.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to figure out where I fit in because I think we all have to kind of own our own, parts.
yes. Well, and that was that question is like
That's
where are
that kind of sucks to have to look at, And I'm
yes
like,
can we be toxic?
yeah, yeah,
And I think we all can.
yeah, for sure.
But then there's what's motivating us, because man, we all deserve the right to be in a healthy community.
Well, we all deserve it, but we all desire it too.
Big time.
I mean, I don't know if we deserve anything, but
I like that. I think my word was wrong. Deserve isn't the right word. We desire it.
And so it's
And the more time, Shannon, I spend, meeting with people in my private practice, because I still I like my private practice, is like and the more time I talk to people and I get curious with them, is, man, people are craving, what we'll get into in a little bit, but authentic community.
right. And it's really hard, especially even if you as an individual fall into one of those 7 people. If you look at it kind of like an Enneagram situation, like where you can be unhealthy or healthy within your, like it seems like if you take those 7 toxic personalities and you can recognize kind of where you might be bent towards, then you can work on healing that.
Yeah.
And if you heal yourself or, take care of your own toxic traits, then that can lead to authentic community. If everyone is owning their own, toxic parts. But if you end up in a situation where,
but I would,
Okay.
I like what you're saying, owning your part. Now, I don't know if everyone can or will. All I'm responsible for is me,
right.
and so
I
that,
understand that, but that's what I was saying about when you were about to start talking about authentic community. What I'm saying is, like, we were talking about how do you get out of, those situations if you're in a toxic community. And, I've learned over the years, obviously, like since our youngest graduated from high school and we no longer have to be in a school like community, like our
Yes.
children's school community. We don't have to be in that anymore. In fact, it's kind of looked at as weird. Like if I show up to volunteer at the high school, people will be like, why
are you doing
is she
that?"
here? Why is she back? She needs to go away because she's toxic, because she's a control freak and wants to control everything.
She's the straitjacket.
She's the straitjacket, and I know I can recognize that in myself when I'm in an unhealthy place. But so we've been able to exit that, but I have realized over the past few months, probably 6 months, that how toxic some of that community has been.
Okay, and so that goes back to your question. So how do you get out of that?
Right. So I
It's
naturally
like,
was able to get out of it, but
yeah, and sometimes and right there, it's going back to communities are weird. Communities change. You have your community before you get married of, being single after college. You have your
Right.
college community, high school, as you grow up. And then And then we were one of the first people in our friend group that got married. And so we
Mm-hmm.
hung out with the other people that were married. And so there was this young married people,
Switch, yeah.
you know, and the other single people kind of left
And when
us
I
out.
was first single, living in Dallas out of college, not when I was first single, but when I was out of college with my first job in Dallas, and that's when Friends came out, the show.
Oh, yeah.
So you talk about, so we met on a weekly basis, and we all watched it together because, you know, it was every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. or whatever it was. And but that was my community. Like you think now, as time has changed, and you don't have to watch shows at a certain time on a certain night.
Because you have DVR and stuff like that.
And all that, and with Netflix or whatever. But so that was just but that was a way that we had community. And I think building community is so much harder for our kids because there aren't things like that.
Yeah, but let's
We
get
didn't
into
have the
I
phones.
I
Okay,
agree
so
with
I
that.
just- well,
I mean,
yeah.
I think that's good stuff. Let's come back to that, but let's talk about it. Okay. You know, so we have all these different types of communities, and now we're in the new community of empty nesters, and there's a group of us that are trying to do once a month empty nester, you know, dinner night
Yeah.
at someone's house, and they, you know, we went the first time this summer, and it was fun.
Yeah,
You know,
that's fun.
but we're in this different stage, so there's stages like that.
Yeah.
And so you have communities, but then I think what we were talking about is when you step back from a community that you've been real active in, and you start to go, okay, it was toxic, and then you need to look at, okay, what part was I toxic? What was
Right.
what you know, was I one of the 7? Where did I fall in this?
Right.
Or where did I might not even be toxic, but sometimes I can co-sign that toxicity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's like, where did I co-sign this toxicity? You know, did I start, you know, like the, you know, what the emotional, you know, moocher, or the drama magnet, or the J&J, those that talk, that do a lot of gossip and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know, those, you know, all of a sudden am I gossiping too?
But when you have firm values or opinions, but opinions based on your moral compass and your beliefs, and that when it gets toxic is when you go in firm with your beliefs, and then the community slowly chips away at those, and then you co-sign.
Or
things that
you
you
or
don't
you don't
agree
stand,
with.
or you don't really have that conviction of your values because of your own fear. I mean, there's a
and
lot
it's
of things.
within the community. It's not the norm. It's not what the majority of the community is doing or whatever. And so then you have to, and then you're kind of like, okay, well, you know, I mean, I'll bend, you know.
Yeah.
But and then when you step away from it, though, you look back, and I've looked back. I've done a lot of reflecting, and I look back and I think that just wasn't right. It just wasn't the right way to do things, and I
got to look at
Did it.
my part.
right.
You know,
Exactly.
and so people are going to be people, and you know, I can get in there because maybe at least it's community, but it might be a toxic community.
Right.
You know, and so when I talk about authentic community, what comes to mind for you? How would you define
Safety.
it? Safety? Yes. What else? What do you mean by safety? I mean, that's
I mean, safe spaces. You know, there. You know how they. It's been years coming, but you know they talk about offering safe spaces to students in college and all that kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
like, why do you have to offer a safe space if people are supposed to be emotionally, you know, have emotional IQ? I mean, it's like, but that's what I mean by like, you need safe spaces to be vulnerable, and safe people that aren't going to expose.
okay. So I like that. So you're talking about when I say the word authentic community, you think of safety, you think of vulnerability,
Yeah.
and so what I believe you're saying.
Permission to
Be
be
vulnerable.
vulnerable. Yeah.
Yeah, and wouldn't vulnerability be a two-way street too?
Yes.
Yeah, and so you got safety, you got vulnerability. What else do you think of?
I think of what do you think of? I
That's all right.
I'm stuck a
Yeah,
little bit.
that. But I love.
because
those. I love that you're saying, safety.
trust.
Yes.
I'm just trying to think of adjective. I feel like we're playing a word game now.
Yeah, that's all right.
just trying
That's
to-
all right.
yeah.
I mean, I did put you on the spot.
Yeah.
But when I think of authentic community, I agree with you. That safe place, to be myself, and people, and that sense of acceptance, even in my crap.
Right, and grace, and the
Yeah.
acceptance, even in you read all those quotes about your best friends are the ones that love you no matter what, love you even if you're whatever. I had a funny example today, just a little quick side note at lunch. We were talking about an employee somewhere that has been kind of not very nice to people in the past, and everybody kind of has a story about this employee and all this stuff. And then so one friend was sharing her story, and then the other friend started laughing and was like, I was there. And then we were all like, was it that bad? And the other friend goes, well, I think she was a little premenopausal actually, but but that's community. That's a good friend that can joke you about that and know that about you. Know that at that time in your life, you were going through hormonal changes, which is what I'm doing right now. And I need friends and community that will show me grace if I maybe make a mistake if I'm a little irrational or if I'm angry about something. And she was like, no, it wasn't premenopause. It was just wrong. And so, but it just, you can get a good laugh out of that. But if you're in community with one of these toxic people, they can judge you for that, or they can,
Shame you.
And
Yeah.
it can be
Criticize you.
Yes.
Try to fix you.
Right.
Come up with excuses. It's
Right.
like, but see, also what I think authentic community is, it's people that you feel really listened to and heard.
Yes.
And so if I'm in one of these 7, different types of a toxic, person, then I'm not going to listen.
Right.
If I'm the conversational narcissist or the straitjacket or the emotional moocher or the drama magnet or the J&J or the fibber or the tank, it's like if I'm in those places, I don't listen. So it's
Right.
like it's that safety, it's that vulnerability, it's that listening and truly feeling heard.
Right.
I what's crazy is like I was talking to our son's old youth leader, Travis's old youth leader, Brent Baker, and I was talking to him as I was driving to Austin last week, and I loved it. And he and his wife moved to Austin. Now he's working for another church down there, and I was just asking how do they like it, and he goes, I love it. He goes, the only thing is like, we have friends, but I haven't really found that deep, authentic community. It takes years to build that. And he was
Right.
talking about, his buddy Jared and Paul and their wives and how
Right.
all 6 of them were really tight.
Right.
And I think about us as like the Conklins are truly our community.
Right. Yeah.
And and the Claps. But then there's we don't have and so it's truly a blessing to have at least some true authentic community. That we can laugh and dance and do all sorts
Yeah.
of stuff, but also
Well, and we have
just
other
struggle.
communities, people that if they're listening and they're thinking, oh, they don't think we're a community. Like we do have other,
No,
yes,
I'm
I
not
do,
talking about other
I know,
communities. I'm
I
talking
just-
about true, authentic communities.
Yeah, no. I know. And we have some
Yeah.
good authentic, anyway,
Yeah. But
it's like doing an Oscar acceptance speech and leaving out some people like they're like what are we not authentic, we have lots of, I don't want to name names, but from like you said, it's years to build. But we went to dinner with a couple in February that that's authentic community, even though we don't see them or talk to them.
Oh, for sure. Avis
months.
and Jeff.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
that's authentic
what I'm-
community for sure.
That's
You know,
just what I'm saying.
And
You know what I
I,
mean?
I love the fact, that you're, that I have, true authentic community like with Brian, but you're starting to build it with Tara, even though they live in California.
Right.
And
Right.
so there's that. As I appreciate that that you're willing to do those things.
Well,
That because that truly is just. I was talking more as couples, but individually, it's like, man, I got my guys, that are around the country that we can pick up the phone and talk
Yeah.
and really have that authentic community.
but I think we have to be careful about. I have had to change my expectations of community because each different community that we're in, from work to church to school to whatever, they look different, and our expectations of them should be different because you may not, with your like a work community, you may not have like this authentic community because
But it's community.
It
And
is
I'm not
community.
saying it's bad or anything. It's just
I'm
a work
saying
community.
to set you're not listening. I'm saying to set your expectations for your different communities because sometimes that can get in work environments like yours because you're a therapist and a counselor and you've had work environments where you're supervising counselors. It's all about feelings and everything and all that stuff. The expectation can be to be vulnerable and have authentic community. But in a different type of work atmosphere, sometimes you need that boundary of privacy. Some of your
Yeah, I mean, I see that, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I am.
I mean, you don't have
encouraged.
to be one of those toxic people within your community. You can always be your authentic self. I think the concentrating on not being one of those toxic people in any community that you're in, concentrating on yourself, and then also trying to be your authentic self always. Then I think certain things come naturally and organically. But that's another thing.
But where I was going with it.
Okay, go ahead.
Where I was going with it is, just giving Brent's story is like lots of people don't have when you say true authentic community, it's not that many people. It's
Right.
it's small, and the other people that are in different communities of ours, they're not less important, but it's just not that deep, authentic community.
I know,
and that's what I'm
that's
talking
what-
about.
And that's why I was topping off what you were saying with having people really try to not overshoot their expectations
I agree with that.
because it is just it might just be a very small group, and we shrunk our group. I think we've always been an open book. Obviously, we've done over 100 episodes, spilling out all our we don't have any secrets really, but
Yeah.
so we obviously have always approached community as an open book. We've always been kind of an open book. And my expectations are that others reciprocate that. And so if I am vulnerable with you and I'm authentic with you, my expectation is that you do the same. I don't think we can set those expectations.
I agree. I'm glad you said that last sentence because I was going, okay, where's she going?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I get to choose if I'm vulnerable, and if I'm vulnerable and they're not vulnerable back, that's not on them.
Right.
And so
So that's what
agree
I'm
with
saying
you.
is that I think we all desire authentic community, and that can look very small, but we should strive to have it in some form or fashion in our lives. We should strive to have some sort of authentic community. We're going to have the other communities, and we need to strive not to be the toxic people in those communities and not have our expectations that everyone reciprocate.
Well, going back to when I say, okay, what is authentic community? Also, I think authentic community is time spent. I mean, I love Avis
Yes.
and Jeff, and they're great, but I wouldn't say, and we're authentic with them, but that didn't, since we go years without seeing them, I don't know if
Yeah.
it's, and years
Community.
without
I see
even
what you're-
talking
Right.
talking with them.
Right.
But man, if we were around them and spent more time with them, we could, although some communities, authentic communities, take years to build, that one could be there if there was that
Yeah,
commitment.
right. No, that's just all I'm saying is that it's been years and it's anyway. Yeah.
Yes. And so there's that. And so when you look for those authentic communities, it's that place where you feel safe.
Right.
It's that place where there is vulnerability. It is that place where you can laugh and joke with each other.
Yeah.
And not get butthurt because
Right.
you know them and they know you.
And it's very hard when you're in a, I'll say, sort of forced community situation like a school or work or things like that. It really sucks when you can't get to a great place, and it's short lived. It's kind of like, okay, well, I'll put in my time here, but to be totally vulnerable, in January when we did our notebooks of what to our goals
Yes,
for 2022,
yeah.
and then they all changed, but I put in there, I was ready to move on from my kids' school. I was ready to be an empty nester, ready to move on from the kids' school community. I just was.
I know, but it's
then it
like
was like
2 weeks
4-star,
later,
like,
boom,
okay.
it happened. February 11th.
Your wish is my command. But
But
off,
the cool
but-
thing is
but I'd already sensed that it was wearing me out. It just was wearing me out.
and so you were
because-
co-signing some of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to get. I was in a loop of not knowing how to deal with those 7, because in a big school, big huge community, neighborhood schools, feeder patterns, all that stuff, and it's so gigantic. You're gonna find all those 7 people times 3 and 4. I mean,
Yeah.
there's several tanks. There's several straitjackets.
Yeah.
And I can fall into a lot of them myself, and then it's just a terrible.
Cycle.
Well, it just doesn't make you feel good. It's
And so that the key is
it's bad for your mental health.
No, but that's where the key is like when you do have that authentic community. I have that with the Notorious Sinners. I have that, with some other guys in my life. And it's cool because when you do have that and you're getting sucked into those other unhealthy communities, you can always go back to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
I'm yawn.
I liked this episode. We
it's
can
good.
do an episode on
Chico.
Chico.
Oh, believe me.
Yes.
Believe me. I got a lot of material
All right. I'm
to
interested.
help others out there. That
All right. Till next time. Thank
Yes.
you.
yes.